Hey everyone, it's James Frederick, and I'm going to do this video tour a little differently today. So welcome to Sand and Sprig, which is the second virtual tour of the season. I'm James Frederick. This is Frederick Studio Provincetown. So I'm an artist working and living in Provincetown, and I am in my 8th season, so that's kind of crazy. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this work that I'm going to share with you today. It is work that comes from my heart. It's really had a bit of a challenging winter. There was some closeness with my family as my mother passed, and I was seeking solace, and I got back to town in February, and I went for a walk with my boyfriend into the dunes, and it inspired this body of work. I feel like the dunes are this lovely, vast space of simple beauty, and it is so wild because I feel like sand reflects the environment, you know, and I've really noticed this as I honed in on this work and started to paint it. The light, the day part, the season, the weather, like everything changes the color of the sand, and it feels like it's synonymous with the way that life colors me. You know, so having my family very present in the last few months, and really thinking about my father, who is my inspiration. You know, he was a working artist and very technically great. I mean, he was perfect. And I feel like in the last 2 bodies of work that I've painted, I've really channeled that kind of technical realism that he was really into. So I am going to take you through the work. I've set this up a little differently. So you're on the tripod, and I'm just going to like push it along the wall, and you'll be able to see the pieces. And I'm going to try to make it a little less hectic. So all of these works will be on my website. They are actually up on my website now, and you can click to that link in the description of this video. All right, so let's go through the work. So the first piece here is 9 by 12, and it's a smaller piece. It's called Province Lands, and you can see that it's one of those vistas of looking back to Provincetown from the dunes, which is also known as the Province Lands. So just a little detail. You get a little bit of shimmer from the canvas there, so love that piece. So you can see why I called the show Sand and Sprig. This next piece is 9 by 12 as well. It's called Rainbow Sky. And you can see that the sky has all the colors of the rainbow, and sometimes that happens. But here as well, you can see the way that there, I'm just adjusting the exposure a little bit because it's actually a little darker than what it's reading. So this is just as the sun's setting, and you can see how the sky illuminates the dunes and how you could actually even see the color reflected into the dunes. So that one's called Rainbow Sky. I'm going to pull this back a little so you can see this next piece, which is large. It's 24 by 30. And it's really that giant vista that you get when you walk from Route 6 by Snail Road up towards the dune shacks. And you get this impression of this giant bowl of sand. Quite the vista. This piece is called Sand and Sprig, and it's 2 foot by 2.5 foot vertical orientation. And I love the way that at that point, when you're at that kind of taller elevation before descending into this bowl, you see the sea off in the distance. So I'll point that out. But so that's here. In the background, you can see the sea. So this piece, instead of being on canvas like I typically use, this is on linen. So there's a bit of a different texture. And I really liked doing that because it kind of switched things up for me. The paint takes to it a little differently. You know, I still do my under painting, which is conditioning the canvas to like burnt umber or raw umber, because I love the depth that the tooth of the fabric gives to the paint, especially as I graze the surface with paint. So I'm gonna go a little closer so you can see that texture. Got a little squeaky dolly. So there you can see some of the detail and the texture. I'm gonna pivot this a little so you can see it in the clouds as well. So I love that effect. And you know that that's if you've been following me and my work, you know that that's kind of a hallmark of most of my work, definitely the abstract and the representational. So yeah, that piece is called Sand and Sprig. It's actually the namesake of the show. This next piece is called Pink Cloud, and you can see why. So it is 16 by 16, one of my favorite formats, and you can see how the reflective sunset lights up those clouds. This one has a little bit of a pink going into like purples. And you can see some of the scrub and vegetation that grows out of these dunes. There's often like sand rose or beach rose. These are white ones. They're often pink. But anyway, this is called Pink Cloud. But yeah, you can see how the sand just really changes color and takes on what's around it, which is kind of a phenomenon that I guess I knew happened, but I didn't really put voice to it until I painted this body of work. So this piece is really the largest piece of the collection, and it's called Wanderlust. And Wanderlust is about that desire to travel, to explore, to dig in. And so this actually is painted from a photo I took that day that I walked into the dunes for that sense of peace and calm. And you know, it's so magnificent, it's so big that I feel really small when I'm out there, and I love that feeling. So yeah, it's 30 by 30, and it is this large piece that I really made the focus, this sun coming through the clouds, and I love how the effect really came through. You know, it's that filtered, glorious sun. So let me zoom in a little bit for this one. And you can see some of the detail, the dunes beyond. And then there's the sprigs of vegetation. You know, it's amazing to me that that things grow in the sand like that. So this next piece is called Sand Drift. And this is a piece I just fell in love with, this photo I fell in love with. This actually was painted from a photo that my friend Tina took at sunrise over at, I think, Head of the Meadow Beach. But it's that moment when the water becomes like iridescent, and there was this fence that was kind of half covered by the sand because it's always moving and shifting here out on the Cape. And so it was really obvious when you see this fence half buried. But I love the way the sky came out in this piece. So yeah, it's 16 by 16 if I didn't mention that, and it's called Sand Drift. So I love it. And I have a couple smaller pieces to share with you. This one is called, I'm gonna do a little handheld now because of the angle. And let me go up to this. This piece is called West End Marsh. And you know, it is again about the sand and the growth of the salt marsh grass. But you can see Provincetown in the distance, which is cool. If you're familiar with P-Town, this is kind of the view you get as you trek back from what we call Boyd Beach out on the barrier dune at Herring Cove. So it's 12 by 12 and it's called West End Marsh. And this piece is called Dunescape. And it's kind of, again, the ever-changing sand formations. This is at the inlet of Hatches Harbor with the sun just reflecting in the clouds. It's called Dunescape. It's 12 by 12. And this final piece that I want to show you as part of the show, I've used to promote the show. It's called Dune Before Dusk. And unfortunately, it's no longer available because it was pre-sold, but I love this piece, especially as the way the sun's dropping. It's 16 by 16. And yeah, the sky, I feel, became very expressive. So this is that large bowl that's just right off of Province Lands Road with Herring Cove Beach kind of in the distance. And if you sneak up the little bit of berm on the side of the road, you can kind of peek over into this valley of sand. So that is the body of work for the show. I had a piece, an older piece that I was going to include. It's called Tide Trails, which you can also see on my website. But I just wanted to share these. Whoops, you can see my cheat sheet on the tripod. So I'm gonna flip this camera around. If I can figure out how to do that, maybe not. So let me talk to you a little bit more about what's going on. So I hope that I'm in frame. I'm doing this again a little differently, but thank you so much for joining. These pieces again are available at the link in the description. And I wanted to invite you also to go to my website. It's frederickstudioprovincetown.com, and feel free to explore. There's a lot of different tabs: wood panels, paintings, comics, coloring. If you go to the About tab, it has a sign up so that you'll get e-newsletters from me. And on the landing page, you can hit the PAGA, which is Provincetown Art Gallery Association icon, and that will take you to that website. And there's a lot of beautiful work that happens here in Provincetown, and I invite you to explore it. I wanted to make you aware that my next show is July 8th, and it's called Vivid Tranquility 4. So it's VTIV for short, and it is a continuation of the abstract referential work that I've been doing that speaks to this kind of loud, soft beauty that we have here in the Outer Cape. So I'm looking forward to getting a little looser with my work and continuing to finish up those pieces. So that's for July 8th. And again, thank you for joining, and thanks.